We've all seen him in our minds. Merlin, the ancient wizard with a long white beard and a pointed hat. He's the trusted advisor to King Arthur, the architect of Camelot, the magician who sees the future and guides heroes with cryptic wisdom. The Merlin we grew up with was shaped by storybook illustrations, Disney films, and fantasy novels. He is part sage, part sorcerer, a cross between Gandalf, Dumbledore, and a kindly grandfather. He is a symbol of stability in a chaotic world. He doesn't lose control. He doesn't make mistakes. He always appears exactly when the hero needs him most. But what if everything we think we know about Merlin is wrong? Recently, researchers examining a seemingly ordinary 16th century book discovered something astonishing. A hidden manuscript fragment, centuries older than the book itself. And in it, Merlin is not the kindly magician we've come to know. We imagine Merlin as a wise old man in flowing blue robes. But what if that version is a polished mask, shaped by centuries of storytelling to hide something much stranger? Recently, researchers made a startling discovery in the rare books room of Cambridge University Library. There, tucked inside the binding of an otherwise unremarkable 16th century book, researchers found something extraordinary. A hidden medieval manuscript fragment that had sat unnoticed for generations. Long ago, the parchment had been recycled, sliced up, glued, and used to reinforce the spine of the newer book. Using advanced imaging technologies such as multispectral scanning and CT analysis, the team was able to peer beneath the surface. What they found was a lost piece of medieval literature, dated between 1275 and 1315. Faded, fragile, and nearly invisible to the naked eye until now. In the recovered fragment, Merlin is not the wise counselor of Camelot. He doesn't appear as a wizard at all. Instead, he shows up as a blind musician, a wandering harper who speaks in riddles and visions. In other moments, he's described as a wild, childlike figure with no pants, almost more creature than man. He's also a shapeshifter, able to change form, always slipping between identities, never fully human. This version of Merlin comes from a rich French literary tradition that was built upon Geoffrey of Monmouth's earlier work, Historia Regum Britannia. Written in 1136, it first introduced Merlin as a prophetic advisor to kings. But the French texts, particularly the Vulgate cycle, written in the early 13th century, took Merlin further. They expanded his character with new episodes, dialogues, and mystical layers, portraying him with more emotional depth, more strangeness, and often a much darker edge. While the exact author of this version is unknown, scholars believe it was likely written by Cistercian monks. These monastic scribes were known for producing religious and allegorical texts, but they also engaged in reshaping popular tales of heroism and infusing them with spiritual tension and moral complexity. These additions didn't just expand the story, they made Merlin stranger, more mystical, and far more dangerous. His origins are even stranger. Merlin was born of a human mother and a demonic father, the product of a forbidden crossing between worlds. This Merlin summons dragons from the earth and foresees the collapse of kingdoms. He mocks kings, manipulates battles, and speaks in riddles. His prophecies are not soothing, they're apocalyptic. He speaks of blood in the rivers, kings devouring their own heirs, dragons clawing their way out of the earth. He's less a sage, more a trickster prophet from a fever dream. Long before he was Merlin, he was known as Merlin, a figure from early Welsh legend believed to have lived sometime in the 6th century. According to legend, Merlin was a bard or warrior who witnessed a terrible battle. The horror of the bloodshed shattered his mind. Driven mad by grief and guilt, Merlin fled into the Caledonian forest, where he lived like a wild man, speaking in riddles and poetic visions. He became a mad prophet and was rumored to have the gift of second sight. He talked to animals, slept under trees, and delivered cryptic prophecies about the fate of Britain. When Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote his Historia Regum Britanniae in the 12th century, he deliberately reshaped Merlin into Merlinus, a more polished, Latinized version who served kings instead of fleeing them. Geoffrey merged Muad'Din's madness with the Romanized wisdom of figures like Ambrosius Aurelianus and gave the world a new character, a prophet not of chaos, but of destiny. But something was lost in translation. In making Merlin fit for royal courts and Christian audiences, his primal essence was slowly stripped away. What remained was a tame shadow of the original. He became a man of robes instead of rags, order instead of madness. In the medieval romances that followed Geoffrey of Monmouth, writers continued to civilize him, sanding down the wild edges, trimming the madness, and adding wisdom. The shapeshifter became a scholar. The forest prophet became a royal advisor. He was no longer a threat to kings. He served them. The transformation was deliberate. To make Merlin palatable to noble audiences, the storytellers turned him into something safer. No longer ruled by instinct or driven by chaos, he became a figure of wisdom and calm advice. His roots in pagan mysticism were covered over with Christian virtue. His wildness was rewritten as wisdom. And slowly, the original version was forgotten. What remained was a sanitized legend, Merlin as a wise old man with a long beard and a pointed hat, whispering prophecies beside the throne. The untamed Merlin, the one who danced with dragons and mocked kings, faded from memory and became lost to history. Until now. For centuries, historians assumed the wild Merlin was lost or overwritten by the robed wizard of the King Arthur tales. But this manuscript proves otherwise. It shows that this older, stranger version of Merlin didn't completely disappear. People were still telling his story, quietly passing it down over the centuries, even if only in fragments. This manuscript is a rare piece of a legend that almost vanished. And in that strangeness, we find something deeper. This version of Merlin makes us question everything we think myths are supposed to be. In this story, magic isn't safe or charming. It's wild and unpredictable. Prophecy feels less like wisdom and more like being taken over by something powerful and strange. Knowledge doesn't bring peace. Instead, it brings chaos, truth, and danger. Instead of offering comfort or counsel to kings, Merlin challenges authority. He doesn't quietly predict the future. He forces it to happen whether the world is ready or not. By softening old myths to make them easier to tell, we may have hidden the parts that mattered most. Now, thanks to this long-lost fragment, the forgotten parts of the legend are stirring back to life. So the next time you see Merlin depicted as the calm, wise wizard with a pointy hat and long white beard, remember that wasn't always the story. Before the legends were polished, before the myths were made safe, there was another Merlin, wild and strange, a prophet who walked the edge of madness. This lost fragment doesn't just reveal a forgotten version of Merlin, it reminds us that even our most familiar stories have ghosts buried underneath.